it's time to finally answer the biggest question I get asked as a pro runner. What shoes do I run in? This video is the rundown of what an On-sponsored pro runner wears on their feet in the preparations for being on the elite start line at the London Marathon. I'll be covering the workhorse shoe that I run a huge amount of my mileage in and why I love it so much. I'll also show you which shoe is going to be on my feet when I race the London Marathon. Now, I'm not a shoe reviewer, I'm a pro runner. So this isn't going to be the sciencey breakdown of all of the different aspects of the shoe down to the fine little details. You can get that somewhere else. What this is a pro athlete's honest take on why I wear the different shoes I do. And as many of you may know, I am an On-sponsored athlete. So I thought, what better sponsor for a video where I'll be talking through exactly what On shoes I wear on my feet for different parts of my training than On themselves. So thanks On for backing me as an athlete and for sponsoring today's video. Freshly baked. Now, before I get straight into the workhorse shoe that I wear every day for my easy runs and my warm-ups and my cool-downs for my sessions, I want to talk to you about the first On shoe that I ever wore, which is this one here. It's the Cloudmonster 2. I tried them on for the first time, probably around this time last year, actually. I can remember taking them out with me to Font Romeu and training in them out there. I actually got given a pair after the Berlin half marathon when I forgot to bring my easy running shoes with me. Thanks On for sorting me out. And the original Cloudmonster was really popular. This is the second iteration, and as a quick rundown of some of the stats, you have a 6mm heel to toe drop, which is fairly minimal. There's a sort of forward rolling sensation when you wear this shoe. For a lot of people, this is their workhorse shoe. Got some pretty good cushioning. I retired this shoe when I found a different workhorse shoe from On that I loved even more. Doesn't mean I don't like the Monster, it just means that I prefer her slightly thicker sister.
Damn, boy, he's thick!
And that is the CloudEclipse. Now, I don't know whether you can tell, but this pair, we've been through a lot together. These have been retired now because they're a little bit worn out. But I don't know about you, I find it hard to get rid of a shoe that has been through a lot with me. So I'll hold on to these for pottering around in the garden or maybe the odd mobility session in the garage. I feel like we've come a long way together. The CloudEclipse is On's softest, most maximum cushioning mileage shoe that they do, and I absolutely love these. It has the exact same drop as the Cloudmonster 2, 6mm, but I don't know whether you can tell, she's just slightly thicker, slightly chunkier, and you can definitely notice the extra squish. This is a really scientific test as well, the finger squish.
I'm something of a scientist myself.
Look at that. It's got what On calls a speed board in the middle, this little guy, which gives it some really nice stability whilst also keeping it a neutral shoe. And with this being a neutral shoe, it means that it just works with the natural movements of your body, which means that it feels smooth. It's not super restrictive. If you were to put on a shoe that's a little bit more stability focused, if that's something that you need, that has just like a little bit more support typically in the arch. I like that this shoe doesn't have that because I am a runner that gravitates towards a neutral shoe. I don't want to feel too restricted, and the main thing that I look for in a mileage shoe when I'm running upwards of 100, 110 miles per week in marathon training is the cushioning. That is what this shoe does so well. And to be honest, I like to keep my rotation for my easy runs pretty minimal. I like to find a shoe that I love running in, that I feel works for me and is my jam, and I kind of stay in that shoe. Unless I'm running on different terrain, so maybe I'll put on a trail shoe if it's really slippy out. But that's why, apart from my intervals, maybe my long run, if it incorporates some marathon pace effort or it's a progression, I'm wearing this shoe. So I would equate that with roughly 90% of my weekly volume. It's in the CloudEclipse. That's why she's a workhorse. She doesn't get much respite. Monday morning, Monday afternoon, Tuesday morning for my warm up and cool down, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning, Thursday afternoon, Friday morning for warm up and cool down, Saturday, and then probably 2 out of 3 Sundays. If my long run is just easy to steady, if it's part of a workout and faster as well, then I'll trade her out. But that's why you're my ride or die, baby. It's a lot of miles. One shoe that could be some competition in the future for the CloudEclipse is the newly released Cloudsurfer 2. Now, you might have seen this one doing the rounds with none other than Elmo himself. He's a big fan, that's no secret. I haven't had the chance to run in these as much as I would like to. In a marathon block, I try to keep things really simple, and when I'm changing things in my training, like increasing my mileage, like doing sessions I've never done before, like doing long runs that are harder than I've never done before, I like to keep as much the same as possible to give you kind of a clean experiment. That way, if I'm not changing my shoes and there's a niggle that comes up or something that hurts, I know that it's due to something else, and I can look into that with my physio. But I'm really excited to try these out a little bit more after this training block, and I mean, Elmo says they're soft. Pretty good recommendation. Moving on then to the shoe that I would do some of those progression long runs in, and that is the Cloudmonster Hyper. There she is in all of her dusty glory. And this is a really cool shoe because I have it on good information that this is the highest energy return shoe, doesn't have a carbon plate.
Wow.
And that's because this foam you see here is the same foam that they put in their super shoes. It's considerably lighter than the Cloudmonster 2. Same heel to toe drop, 6mm, but when you're wearing this shoe, you can tell it wants to go fast. And you can tell you're getting that energy return from the foam. It also feels more cushioned because although that foam is really high energy return, it's kind of softer and a little bit less dense, which I really like. And that's why this is a really nice hybrid option. If you're going for a long run that you maybe want to pick up at the end and have a little bit of a progression, but you don't want to stop your long run to change shoes. And this is actually the shoe that Daniel started using for his interval sessions before moving on to another shoe that I'm going to show you in a minute that's a little bit snappier, a little bit faster. So it's a great introduction to a little bit of a faster shoe, but if you don't want to have, 3-4 pairs of shoes by having a carbon plated shoe, your easy shoe, a progression shoe, this is a really nice option in between the two. So what is that snappier, faster shoe that Daniel is now wearing for his interval sessions and he's really enjoying wearing, and I sometimes wear, not actually that often. It's one that I reach to for shorter, faster track sessions, but I know that a lot of the OAC group wear these for a ton of their threshold work, and that is the Cloudboom Zone. It's a pretty new shoe, same drop as a lot of the other shoes. It's a 6mm heel to toe drop, and this one's built for speed. So it does have a plate in there, pretty rigid. It's gonna give you really nice energy return, but it's not carbon plated. There is a speed board in here that you can actually see just there, in a similar way to the one that's in the CloudEclipse. It gives you a little bit of stability, but also stiffness that you're gonna want when you're getting faster and running on your toes, which is why I like wearing it for those shorter, snappier sessions. I love putting these on for strides, and it's something I reach to when I want to feel like I'm wearing a little bit more of an old school flat that doesn't have a carbon plate in it. I love that they've added one of these to their range because I think there's a benefit in not running in carbon plated shoes for all of your workouts all the time. Without having a carbon plate in them, I think it makes your legs work a little bit harder, which is a good thing because you need that strength there and you don't want to always rely on the shoes kind of backing you up for that. I'm going to show you my race day shoe in just a second, but there are a couple of others I want to show you first because I think they're worth talking about. These are the Cloudsurfer Trail, and they get an honorary mention here because it's been snowing up here in Flagstaff, and not only do these have pretty incredible grip, but they're also waterproof, which is such a nice feeling to come back from a run that feels pretty demoralizing and you're soaked all the way through, but your feet are not. So I've already shown you the Cloudsurfer 2. This is the OG Cloudsurfer, and essentially the waterproof Cloudsurfer Trail is an OG Cloudsurfer with trail tread and a really nice waterproof upper. There's an extra millimeter on the heel to toe drop on these, so it's 7mm, and there's a little bit less of a kind of valley underneath in comparison to the OG Cloudsurfer, and that's great for the trails because you're not gonna get stones stuck in the bottom of your shoe. I don't run on the trails a ton. If I did, I'd be wearing these, but when it is snowing outside, these are on my feet because I want to stay on my feet. And the final honorary mention, before I get onto my race day shoe, which might surprise you because you might have thought that these would be my race day shoe, and it's a close call, but that is the Cloudboom Strike Light Spray. Now, I don't actually train in these very often. I've done a few sessions in them, as you can see. I prefer this one's close sibling because I'm just a little bit more of a traditionalist and I like having laces to lock down on the top, but I cannot not mention this shoe because it is so revolutionary from On that they have created something like this. The upper is entirely sprayed on by a robot and is almost see-through. No other shoe company has this technology. It is incredibly light. I don't think I've ever held a racing flat in my hand that is as light as this shoe, which makes it incredibly compelling to race in. Obviously there's that performance advantage when your shoes are lighter because you're going to be using less energy to pick your feet up. The foam is exquisite. As you can see, there are no laces, so we've shed a ton of weight from not having to put in all of that engineering to have the laces and the tongue and all of those moving parts in the top of the shoe. 4mm drop on this one, so a little bit more minimal than a lot of the other shoes, but you put these on and it feels like they were made to be on your feet. They're a very snug fit, but they kind of have to be because there's no adjustments there. You can't, you know, tighten or loosen the laces. They are just as you see. And it looks like they'll be pretty difficult to get on, but you'd be surprised that this upper, it does stretch and you just have to trust that you're not gonna break these, although it sometimes feels like they should be just on display and not worn because you don't want to ruin them. They're a shoe that want to be raced in. I'd like to do a 5K or a 10K in these. I've not raced in them yet, and I'm sorry I've not raced in you yet, but the OG Cloudboom Strike is the one to blame for that. And here she is. This is the shoe that I raced my 2:25:47 marathon PR in Berlin, and this is gonna be the shoe I'll be sticking to run in the London Marathon. I love this colorway. It's that same range that you've got here on the light spray. I just think it's so cool. This is a sexy shoe. This is On's, built for marathons, built for any road race distance, I'd say. She's carbon plated, obviously, so you've got basically no bend in there, same as the light spray. The Cloudboom Strike is a little bit heavier than the light spray, but it's hard not to be because the light spray is ridiculously light and you're gonna have a little bit of extra weight by having the laces up there. I am really picky about the fit of my shoe and historically will tie and retie my shoelaces before a race 5 to 10 times, maybe 2 or 3 before workouts. There's definitely an element of nerves that comes in there, and I'm sure some of you experience that as well. In fact, if you are a tire and retire of your shoes, let me know in the comment section so I don't feel so alone in this curse I have. They just released a new colorway of this actually, which is hot yellow. I'm very excited to wear those. Probably will be the colorway on my feet for London, but without a doubt, this is gonna be the shoe I'm racing in. This is what I am wearing for my marathon workouts, most of my interval workouts, most of my threshold workouts, unless I'm reaching for the Cloudboom Zone or doing a progression run in the Cloudmonster Hypers. These are the shoes I'm rattling through, and they're super fast, they're super responsive, they're also super cushioned, and having all 3 of those in one shoe is what you want when you're gonna be running a marathon. I can put these on and know that for 26.2 miles, I'm not gonna be worrying about my shoes. You shouldn't have to worry about your shoes when you're running a marathon. You've got enough to worry about, and I know that they're fast, which is pretty high up on my criteria. And these have got a name for being a really good marathon shoe, but honestly, if I was racing a road mile or a 5K, I think I'd probably still reach for these. They're super responsive. You can feel really toey and really fast in them, and I think that just makes them a really versatile shoe. This is the competitor taking up most of the other 10% of my mileage. If I could only take 2 shoes with me on a training camp, it'd be these and the Eclipse. Isn't that just a match made in heaven? Steady, reliable, easy day shoe, fast, responsive, reliable, powerful, fast shoe. So this little speed demon will be the shoe that's gonna be on my feet for the London Marathon, hopefully taking me to a good chunk faster than 2:25:47. And you'll have to come back in a few weeks' time to find out if that materializes. I am working my socks off to get there. I really appreciate you all coming along for the ride and loving the grind with me in the process.